it's me, Robin, with Simple Food, Simple Life. Today I'm going to show you how to make the vegetable soup that I grew up on. Now, inevitably, at least one time a week, my mom had something simmering on the back of the stove. It was a pot of something. It was either bean soup or potato soup or vegetable soup, sometimes chili. And so we had a large family, and a pot of something like that would go a very long way in feeding us. So I'm going to show you, give you an idea of the kind of vegetable soup that I grew up on. Now, over the years, I honestly think that canned vegetables and fruit have really gotten a bad rap. Especially vegetables and fruit. And if you're in my age or thereabouts, I'm 69, and even my children, their growing years was fed with canned goods. So they were convenient, they were cheap, and they lasted a long time. They were well preserved. So that's going to be some of the basis of this soup. And this is going to be, it's a nutritious soup, it's an easy soup to make, and I think that it is a soup that you can enjoy. It's also a soup that is pretty inexpensive. So, what I have here and what I'm going to start with, these happen to be hamburger patties, but these patties are 1/3 of a pound each in weight, so I'm going to use 2 of them. I'm not going to make an enormous batch of soup, but you'll see how this is easily doubled or tripled, however you want to do it. So, and this is actually pretty quick to make too. So I'm going to use 2, got my pan going here, I'm going to use just 2 patties, and let me break them up. Let me get right here where you can see over the kettle. Alright, I'm just going to break these patties up. Like I said, there's 1/3 of a pound each, so that's 2. That's 2/3 of a pound of hamburger or ground beef, mince, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so my pan's not quite hot yet, but that's fine. I don't care. This particular ground beef is 80/20. You use whatever you like. I'm not very picky about ground beef, personally. That's just me. If it's the 73-27 or whatever it is, 70-30, that's fine. I don't care. I'm good with that. Matter of fact, I buy that most of the time. So let me rinse my hands real quick. All right. So we're gonna brown this ground beef, and I'm gonna put a little salt on it because salt makes food taste good. You know. And I'm gonna put some black pepper on there. I like pepper. I'm gonna put one thing in that my mom would never have put in. She would never have put in garlic. So, okay. So I'm getting my beef browned here, beef browned here. Now, see, it's kind of chunky. I don't care. That's great. I'm fine with that. And I'm going to put in my onions. I chopped up half an onion. This was about, I don't know, medium-sized onion. So, gonna start browning that off too. Get that cooked. Just a little bit. Got to bring the heat back up. Now then, about canned goods. Canned goods, for example, canned vegetables. You know they're canned at the peak of freshness. The water that they are cooked in is full of nutrients because that's the water they're cooked in. And yeah, it has salt in it, but you know what? If that's a problem, there's a lot of low sodium vegetables out there. These particular vegetables that I bought They're from Aldi. Now they're 49 cents a can. They're that price all the time. Canned goods used to be so inexpensive, and honestly, I think they're still a good buy. Especially, you know what, if you're into the food storage and you like to keep your pantry stocked up, what better thing to stock them with than canned fruits and vegetables? Because you know they're not going to spoil. And another thing, in case of an apocalypse, you're going to need all the water and liquid that you can, so it's a good thing to have some canned vegetables in water. All right, now I'm going to add some potatoes. Now, these are like 2 medium to large potatoes that I diced. I just diced them like that, and so that they're substantial, but they're not, you know, too chunky. They're just plain old russet potatoes. So I'm going to put them in there and kind of get them going. Now, if you don't want to use hamburger and you have the luxury of having stew beef or other beef, by all means use that. Or leftover roast, use that. If you don't have any of that, you can use beans as a protein source. Get yourself some canned beans and put those in. That's a good source of protein. So I got my potatoes in there. Now I'm going to add 1 can of tomatoes. Now, these are just diced tomatoes. They're from Aldi also, and they are 49 cents. So far we're doing pretty good on our ingredients, I think. Now, if you don't want to add potatoes for the starch, add some pasta. But what I would recommend is don't add the pasta until the end. And then I would cook my pasta outside of my soup. Drain it well, and then add it to the soup. I just think it makes for a better... It doesn't thicken up your soup that way. You actually still have soup. If you cook the dry pasta in there, it's rather, it can be rather, it thickens everything up because of the starch. And I did rinse my potatoes. I rinsed the starch off my potatoes. So, okay. Now, we're going to add 1 can of green beans. Now you can see the only thing that's really raw in here is going to be the potatoes, so we're going to have to allow for those to cook. I'm going to add 1 can of carrots. Now, I didn't have any peas, otherwise I would add a can of peas. But it's your choice. You add what you like. And I'm going to add 1 can of whole sweet corn. Now again, all of these vegetables come from Aldi. They are 49 cents every day. Sometimes I try to just buy them by the case and then fill up, you know, as I need, because you never know. The zombie apocalypse could show up and there you'd be with no canned vegetables. Hey, this looks good already, doesn't it? Okay, now I got all those in and I got my heat turned up, so it's going to have to come back up to heat. And what I have here, I have a can of tomato juice right here. And this also came from Aldi. This was $1.35. I may not need the whole can because you can see that this soup is really, it's quite a bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add this in. And I'm going to do half. See? I'm going to do half right now. Honestly, I think that's going to do it. Now, you may be thinking, oh my gosh, why didn't you drain those vegetables? You should drain them. There's nothing wrong with the liquid that they're cooked in. They're perfectly fine. There's a lot of vitamins in that. You pour that water, that cooking water down the drain, and you have poured vitamins down the drain. So skip that stuff. That's silly. Don't be so concerned about that. It's fine. It's just, you're making soup. And think of this as apocalypse soup. Could really be apocalypse soup if you didn't have any hamburger to put in there and all you had was canned goods. You could actually just use all canned goods and make a perfectly good, delicious soup. I've done it lots of times. All right, so we're going to bring this back up to a boil, and then I will show you what it looks like, because we want to make sure that our potatoes are good and done. Everything else is cooked. It's just the potatoes that we're concerned about. So you can see how this soup is just not going to take very long. Be right back. All right, it's coming back up to heat. It's starting to boil. So I'll just back the heat down just enough so that it's on a simmer until the potatoes are tender. That's all I'm looking for, because that's really the only raw vegetable in there. Now, if you want to add cabbage, maybe you've got a little cabbage, cut that up and put that in. If you want to add some celery and you happen to have that, put that in too. There's nothing to prevent you from doing that. This is not a recipe. This is merely a method. It's just a suggestion of ingredients. You can put in whatever you like. But the canned goods are the basis for this soup. And it is extremely delicious. It's very, very satisfying soup. So I'm just going to let this cook until, because my potatoes are still raw, and I'm going to turn it down to a nice simmer and just let it sit and get familiar. And then when we come back, I will dish this up and I'll show you what it looks like. Now, I've already tasted this for seasoning. I'm happy, pretty happy with the seasoning. I think it's just fine the way it is. And so I'm going to leave it like that. I'm not going to mess with perfection. And I don't think I need any more tomato juice. If you would rather use a V8 juice, use that. That's perfectly fine. It is your soup. But this is how simple it is to make. And you can actually use your food stores and your food storage to make this soup. So easy. Okay, all right. Now, we'll be back, and then I will dish it up when the potatoes are done, and I will show you what this looks like, and it's pretty yummy. Okie doke. Now, this has been cooking for about 15 minutes. I tried one of the potatoes. They're not quite done yet. The potatoes aren't quite done, so I'm going to keep this on a simmer for another 15 minutes or so. I've added a little more tomato juice to the pot, and I've had it on low, and I put my lid on, so that would facilitate the cooking of the potatoes. So you can see that this is looking pretty good. Okay? All right. So we'll be back when the soup is done, and then I will dish it up and I will show you what we have. Okay. Okie dokie. Our soup is done. I tried the potatoes. They're nice and tender, which is what we want. And I'm going to dish some of this up for you. See what that looks like? Doesn't that look good? This is so good. It's soupy. It's full of vegetables, wholesome vegetables. If you're worried about the tomato being too acidic, the carrots add a little sweetness to it, so it tones that down. And I'll give you a hint. This is a word to the wise. If you have little children and they're not very keen on vegetables, try giving them canned vegetables, because the canned vegetables are more palatable for little children, and they are also more easily digested, especially if you're transitioning your little one from baby food to more solid food. Try the canned vegetables. I think that you will see that they will like them much better. All right, I'm going to dish some of this up and just show you how nice that is. This is actually a nice kettle of soup, and it's going to feed quite a few people for a meal, or for a couple of people. You can have many meals off of this. It's good to take for lunch. It's just an all-around good, delicious soup. Let me grab a spoon. Now, when I eat soup, I'm a tablespoon kind of girl. I like a tablespoon when I eat soup. So, let me give this a little taste. I'm going to get a little burger in there. It's going to be very hot. I'm going to have to blow it. Oh, that's pretty yummy. It takes me back. You know what? It's a good hearty bowl of soup. It's good. It's nutritious. It's inexpensive. And what I say to you, try and make it your own. Put whatever seasonings, spices you want in there. Put whatever you want in there. But just remember, it's good old-fashioned canned vegetables that are the basis of this soup. And it is absolutely delicious. All right? All right, listen. I love you. If I can do it, you can do this. And you just remember that little is much when God is in it. Okay? All right. Love you. Bye. I'll talk to you later. And I'll talk to you in the comments, so feel free to leave them. But keep them sweet. We don't want to be naughty. All right. Love you. Bye.